Einstein famously said that his God was the God of Spinoza. So if we want to get some kind of handle on Einstein's conception of God, then we need to understand Spinoza's conception of God. Now, if you're a religious kind of person, then you're probably better off just dropping this video now, because I'm not going to be talking about the God of Christianity or Judaism or Islam. Spinoza's God is something wholly different to that. In fact, it's nearer to the Eastern conceptions of what a God might be. In fact, you'll see a little bit later that we can probably dispense with the word God anyway. But let's just talk about Einstein for a moment. He's particularly of interest to me because I studied Einstein for my PhD. I studied general relativity. And Einstein's general relativity was derived from a very simple idea, and that idea was called the principle of equivalence, where he realized that the force that you feel in your back when you're taking off on an airplane is pretty much the same as the force you feel on your feet when you stand on the ground. He realized that these forces were equivalent, the force of acceleration and the force of gravity. This simple realization led to a whole pile of things which took him about 20 years to work out. One of which is black holes, another one is wormholes, another one is gravitational waves, the dilation of space and time, and in fact a mysterious view of the universe that still today very few people actually understand. And I will openly admit I had great trouble understanding it for my PhD. So Einstein was an unusual man, an extraordinary man. He created a whole branch of physics, theoretical physics, just from a few simple thought experiments. It's fairly unique in the history of physics. And so a man who can think like that and who then says something about his view of God, well, it's probably worth investigating and listening to. Now, because I knew that Einstein was a fan of Spinoza, and so I bought Spinoza, and I just could not understand it. It stood on my bookshelf for 10 years, unread, and I made various attempts to understand it, but they're all fairly futile and in vain. And then I came across a guy who'd been studying it for 40 years, and of course he gave me some fairly significant insights into the way Spinoza thought about these things. By the way, Spinoza was a philosopher who lived in the 17th century. He was excommunicated by his Jewish brotherhood in, I think it was Amsterdam, and he went to become a lens grinder, just simple work, so he could support himself and be independent of any universities, any formal thought systems. He was offered many professorships in universities and so on, and he refused them because he thought it would compromise the work he was doing. So let's get to what Spinoza thinks about God. Well, the first thing that Spinoza says in his masterpiece, which is called the Ethics, is that God is existence. Now, we all take the notion of existence for granted. Hopefully you will acknowledge that you exist. It's one of the few things that we know. We know we exist, and we know that we will die. And existence is this state we find ourselves in every day. We have no notion typically of it while we're asleep. But when we wake up and we're out and about during the day, we are aware to a greater or lesser extent that we exist. And existence is God. We can dispense with the word God almost. You can say that the origin of the universe is existence. Clearly, without existence, nothing could be. Everything emerges from this this manifold of existence. So you, I, all the animals you see, the trees, the planets, everything as an individual thing emerges out of this womb of existence. And as far as Spinoza was concerned, existence is infinite and eternal. And there's no personal notion in all of this. Neither Einstein nor Spinoza saw God as a personal thing. There's nothing out there, no big daddy in the sky looking out for us. We emerge from existence and then we sink back into non-existence effectively. So you can get some kind of insight into this from the Tao Te Ching, which was supposedly produced by Lao Tzu in China 1,000 or so years ago. And Lao Tzu says that heaven and earth are heartless, treating creatures like straw dogs. Now, straw dogs are they're things used in Chinese ceremonies, and as soon as the ceremony is over, they're thrown away, and that's how existence perpetuates itself. Things arise, a tree grows, animals are born, species are developed, and so on. And they come, they seem to serve a purpose, and then they disappear. Now, I don't want to imply that nature or existence or God or whatever term you want to use for it has any predetermined purpose. It doesn't. That would be implying that it has some kind of guiding intelligence. As Spinoza says, God or existence manifests itself necessarily. There's no conscious choice involved. Oh, I think I'll create a new species. It's nothing like that. Things just emerge out of this womb of existence. And they manifest as they manifest, and then they disappear at an individual and at the level of galaxies even. The galaxy we live in, the Milky Way, will one day disappear when it collides with Andromeda, which is heading straight towards us, and I think it's about 2 billion years before it happens, so don't need particularly to worry about it. But the whole thing of existence is worthy of a bit more investigation, because you'll hear people say things like, this is just existing, this is not living. Well, if you look at how we live to exist, oddly enough. So people go to work, they look after their health, they procreate, all to maintain and continue existence. So this sense of existence is obviously a very powerful thing within all of us. And as far as Spinoza was concerned, we inherit from the universe, from nature, this drive to exist. Call it the survival for instinct, the instinct for survival. This is the way that we maintain ourselves in the universe, and it's necessary. If living creatures had no desire to survive, well, they might decide it's not worth the effort or whatever, and then the whole thing would just collapse in a heap. Now, nature itself is just one large self-eating organism. Little things eat bigger things, and bigger things still eat those big things, and so on up the food chain. And human beings who think they're above it all, well, when we die, our bodies go back to the ground and feed worms and bacteria. So we're part of the same self-eating mechanism. And in ancient traditions, you would see a snake eating its own tail. That was quite a common Egyptian symbol for existence. And it's the same kind of metaphor of a creature that is eating itself. Or some describe it as, they describe nature as the mother that eats her own children. And this is the nature of existence. Now, this is not a very pretty picture when you consider the thing from an individual's point of view. We are born, we are conditioned both by our genetics and by the environment we find ourselves in, and we then serve some kind of purpose pretty blindly. In actual fact, we don't really know why we're doing what we're doing, and we help promote the species and we move the whole thing forward. But as an individual unit, as a living entity, what do we as an individual get out of it? And that's really hard to answer. There's no pretty picture at the end of all of this. We arise, we live, we do what we do, and then we die. Or as the Buddhists would say, life is hard and then you die. It's just the way it is. And you either come to terms with that, or you can find yourself some kind of pretty explanation of life that involves life after death, that involves having a purpose, that involves passing on your life energy to your kids and all this kind of thing. People generally do this. People generally look for a happy ever after kind of story in all of this. But to go back to existence, there's a really, really obvious thing staring us in the face, and that is, if we want to understand existence, then we have to experience it. Most of the time we're asleep. We're just engrossed in whatever we're doing. Work, driving our car, doing the shopping, sleeping, obviously while we're out of it when we're sleeping. And we very, very rarely sense our own existence. This is obviously something that can be enhanced through meditation, and you find people will do extreme sports to heighten their sense of existence for some period of time. The problem with extreme sports is that what was extreme last week suddenly becomes fairly routine this week, and you have to go one step further, which can end up in some fairly unfortunate accident. All the same, to go back to the main theme of this short talk, Einstein's God was the God of Spinoza. And Einstein's God was a God of laws, the laws of physics, the laws of the universe, and he portrayed them really quite magnificently. But Einstein found no personal salvation in all of that. He actually said that if it wasn't for his physics and Mozart, he would have found life unbearable. So there we have it. That is Einstein's God. And because I actually got the phrase for this channel from Spinoza. Spinoza talked of the corporeal fantasy, the world as we see it. Then I'm going to be talking a lot more about Spinoza. But anyway, that's it for now.